Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and this is episode 36. I've got Chris DeRuyter with me here of Brand Success Tools, and he's worked with some of the biggest brands out there, Kimberly-Clark, Costco, Campbell Soup, and really for him, branding comes down to one major question. What do you want to be known for? Have you ever answered that for yourself? We'll do that. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. All right, you want to know why? Well, I'll tell you why. My why is to use my presence and my pros to inspire you to go all in on you so that you live a legacy worth leaving. Again, to use my presence and my pros to inspire you to go all in on you so that you live a legacy worth leaving. And I want to inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving by 2030. That's 10 years. That's 100 million people per year. So let's go. Join me in this mission to help equip the world for success and inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving. All right. So I am at Copper State with Chris DeRuyter, and he owns Brand Success Tools.
Correct.
The founder, the owner, and he is helping entrepreneurs and small businesses look as good online as they do in real life, which is really, really cool. Cool way to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not all he does. He's a mechanical engineer. He's also a real estate investor, man. So a jack of all trades. It's going to be a blast. I'm really excited to get to know you, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah. What are you drinking? What are you sipping on?
So I am sipping on a medium roast at Copper State. Really good stuff. A little bit of 2%.
Cheers. And I got the dark roast. Keeps the beard thick, you know. So.
Nice.
Well, so Chris, you and I met online. Not on eHarmony or anything like that, but LinkedIn, and it was awesome and fascinating. I reached out, asked if you would enjoy sharing your story and some of your failures. You've had some great successes in life. You've also had some failures because you're human. You bleed the same as I.
Absolutely.
And so you obliged my request to come hang out. So this is really exciting for me. We've been chatting a little bit off the air as I was kind of finishing my lunch, but I'm excited to get to know you all the more, and really for our listeners. Probably aside from who you will share this with, our listeners have probably no idea who Christopher DeRuyter is.
Right.
And so give them an idea, man. Who are you?
Yeah, so my name is Chris, and I grew up in Seymour, Wisconsin, so 20 miles west of Green Bay. And after I graduated from high school, I grew up in a small town on a dairy farm. From there, I went to engineering college, and I ended up going to school. Got a full-time job outside of graduating with my engineering degree at Kimberly-Clark Corporation, and worked on a lot of their worldwide brands like Kleenex, Huggies, Kotex, Viva, and did projects that worked on the equipment that ended up producing those brands and product upgrades on a regular basis. So, working with KC, I had an opportunity to move out to Seattle. And when I worked out in Seattle with KC, we made products for Costco. So we made Costco's number one selling item, which you probably have no idea what it is.
Not a clue.
It's toilet paper.
Nice, we get it.
Yeah, so the Kirkland Signature toilet paper bundle is what we made at our Seattle location.
Nice.
And we provided the whole West Coast with products for Costco with that. So had a really close relationship with Costco at the time. Moved back from Seattle after 3 years of being out there, and I ended up taking an opportunity to work with an engineering consulting firm here in the greater Green Bay area. And with them, I did projects for other Fortune 500 companies, helping them build their brands and working on projects that furthered all their physical products. So I worked with Procter & Gamble. I worked with some of their brands like Bounty and Charmin. I also worked with Campbell Soup. I worked with Mondelez Corporation, Post Foods, United States Post Office, and a number of other big companies, helping them deliver their projects. So after doing that for approximately 10 years working with Kimberly-Clark and the engineering consulting firm, I decided that I wanted to help start building brands for other small business owners and entrepreneurs. So I started a few companies of my own, the real estate investment that you talked a little bit about, and then also I started Brand Success Tools, and that's what's got me here today.
That's awesome, man. So when you're not conquering the world in helping build brands or giving people a great place to live, or on the mechanical engineering side of things, what do you like to do?
So I'm a big fan of being outside. Okay. So whether it's running or triathlons or going for walks, I like to be very active.
Yeah.
So
how many triathlons have you done?
So I've done 4 triathlons.
Come on.
So like sprint triathlons, I haven't done like full-blown like Ironmans or anything like that.
Sure.
But yeah, I've done.
But you can still fog a mirror, so why not?
I still can, yeah.
Go after it.
Yeah. So yeah, I love being outside. I love to travel. So I've been to Europe, Central America. My wife and I just recently went on a honeymoon to Hawaii, which was incredible. So I like to do a little bit of world travel.
Are you recently married?
Recently married.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
When was the big day?
So the big day was July 22nd, I think, of last year. Yeah.
That'll be a good day to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And you guys went to Hawaii?
Yeah, we went to Kauai, which is a beautiful island. So if anybody has an interest in going to Hawaii for travel and checking things out, Kauai is like a great island if you're looking for like low-key relaxation.
The beauty of Hawaii without the busyness, right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. Any kiddos on the way?
So we actually had a kid together before we got married.
Cool.
Yeah, so I've got
boy or girl?
I've got a daughter.
Nice. What's her name?
Her name is Remy.
Awesome. Cool.
And she will be 2 years old in May.
Awesome. Congrats, man.
So yeah, that's coming up fast.
So awesome. Yeah, they grow fast.
They do.
We have a 3, 2, and 1-year-old at home.
Wow.
And our 4th is, at the time of this recording, is on the way in like 2 weeks. So we'll have 4 under 4. So
wow.
Hands full of good things, as my wife says. But that's awesome, man. It's so cool. Dogs, cats.
My wife has a cat, but I don't claim it.
Nor should you.
She told me when we started dating and that, I said, at least if we move in together and when the cat goes, then we'll just move on from there and we won't have one. And she said, Chris, there will always be a cat. And that always stuck in my head. It's like, well, I'm getting into a relationship and it's not just going to be me. It's going to be my wife and her companions as well.
Yeah. But the cat doesn't have to be in the will. Just
Correct.
know that. Yeah.
Correct.
The cat does not have to be. The cat should not be in the will.
Yes.
That's awesome, man. So cool. Well, I would love to take a little bit more kind of a deep dive on exactly what it is that you're doing today with Brand Success Tools, and even on the real estate side of things, it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And maybe help us. You kind of give us a little bit of timeline from your time with Kimberly-Clark and all that kind of stuff, but maybe back up just a little bit further and like talk to us about like. Did you always kind of know that you wanted to start a company? Was that something that evolved along the way? And kind of take us on a high-level overview of that evolution to where, hey, man, you're here now today, and really get into maybe unpack that idea of what do you mean by helping entrepreneurs and small businesses to look, as good online as they do in real life,
Yeah.
Maybe people would be offended by that statement, right? Like, what do you mean I'm not? What do you mean I don't look that good?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've always felt the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Growing up on a dairy farm, working my ass off from morning to night in the summers, I always had the work ethic and drive to build my own business because my dad, he was his own business owner, right? So he made it go. He struggled a lot through his career, but ended up being a very successful agriculturist, and ultimately retired at a pretty young age being a farmer and having a successful business. So I always looked up to him and his business ownership to eventually do that for myself someday. not necessarily take over the family farm, but hang my hat on something that I've created myself. So going to college, I really thought that engineering was going to be a lifelong passion, and fixing problems and digging into equipment was going to help that equipment run better and work optimally, but it wasn't helping people get better and help them to become the optimum machines that you and I are meant to be, right? So I started thinking about that, and I'm like, okay, well, how can I help people quickly and easily and at somewhat of a low risk? So that's where I got into the real estate investment side of things.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, if I could take a little bit of the money that I've saved, put it into a property, provide safe, affordable, quality housing for a couple of families, and start protecting them, protecting their day-to-day routine and giving them a solid roof over their head, that might be a good way for me to start my own business, start helping people, low-risk investment, and take it off from there. So that kind of set up my whole fuel for the fire, if you will, to take that a step further and then start helping people build their own brands, whether they're a small business owner or an entrepreneur trying to do something more for themselves as opposed to for somebody else, like so many people currently do.
Yeah. So what? Like, what's the big deal about caring about your brand personally, professionally? Like, why is that a thing? Like, why even start a business around that?
Yeah. So you and I, we talked about it a little bit earlier before we went on air about how the only person that's going to look out for you and promote yourself is yourself. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's got a really famous quote that says something along the lines of, each of us needs to work our ass off and advertise if you want to get ahead in life. Because if you don't work your ass off and you don't tell people what you're doing, there's not a good chance that people are going to notice you. So we are meant to be noticed if we're doing things worth noticing.
Yeah.
And working underneath the name of your business, which I talk about in some other presentations that I've given recently in the past, you build an association with other people that is not personal when people get to know your business name, but they don't get to know the individual behind it. So putting yourself out in front of your business, you build a relatable, personal connection that your customers are going to learn to like, trust, and they're going to see you as an authority within that realm. And once you have built those three things and you share that, you're a human being who has a product to offer. Those people that you're reaching out to, those customers, are going to gravitate toward you more so than they are to a non-personal brand that exists in your direct competition.
Yeah. Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, you're saying it's not whether or not you brand or advertise yourself, it's how.
It's absolutely how.
There isn't any middle ground, there isn't any neutrality there.
Yep.
Everyone has a brand.
Yep.
If you're not conscious of your brand, it means your brand's probably not that great. You know
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're saying personally, professionally, in life, we should be very conscious of the brand that we're building. I think of like Warren Buffett's comment on, hey, it takes 20 years to build a reputation. Insert brand, right? It takes 20 years to build a reputation, 5 minutes to ruin it, right? Mm-hmm. And if we're not conscious about our brand and how we're building it and all the things that we're doing that are reflecting upon it,
Yep.
We could ruin it really quickly.
Yeah.
And so what you're helping to do, because when it comes from like a personal brand to business brand, you're saying, hey, those two things shouldn't necessarily be at odds. Your business brand should be an extension of who you are as a person.
Absolutely.
And when that happens, that really signals and communicates so much trust to the folks that you would like to be able to serve, versus people kind of sniff out when someone's disgenuine, and it usually has to do with some kind of disconnect between who they are and what they do.
Right.
There's not the extension of values there, and they kind of sense, maybe they can't quite articulate it or quantify it, but there's a qualitative aspect that they can sniff out and be like, they just don't trust you.
Correct.
Am I kind of hearing you right on that?
Yeah, so the term that I have coined to describe what we are talking about is business personification. So a lot of people think that personal branding is where it's at, where look at me, look at what I'm doing, and putting all the attention on the individual as themselves. But that misses a huge portion of what you're trying to do, because if you're a business owner, you're trying to serve customers as your end goal. So you need to scale that back from personal branding and incorporate your business and integrate who you are with your business so that you can build a relatable connection that, like I said, builds that trust, likability, and authority.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. Business personification.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Kind of wraps up in a soundbite what you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
Which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So then you're solving that with Brand Success Tools. So what does an average day in the life of Chris at Brand Success Tools look like?
So what I'm doing by personifying individuals' businesses is I am taking the value that they have that's currently not being packaged into services through the business, and I'm packaging that individual value for sale or for consumption by your customers on the front end of the relationship. So let's say that, and I just need an example here. Let's say that you are a chiropractor and you have a chiropractic business. So what I would do is I would work with Sunnyside Chiropractic Firm, and I would work with Dr. Jones, and I would help people understand that Dr. Jones is a philanthropist and he likes to work with the community, and he donates his time, money, and talent to charities around the community. I'd also work with him to give me a quick workshop on how an individual can prevent injuries that are sport-related things when you're, say, in your late to upper 30s and early 40s. So taking the value that is not being packaged by the actual products of your chiropractic and delivering some personal value to customers up front is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So when we package that value, we establish that into an individual's own platform. So that platform could be a website, it could be a membership site, it could be an ebook, it could be YouTube tutorial videos, it could be any type of digital asset that we would help them create and deliver that to its customers, not directly on social media, but in a platform that they own themselves, so that it can be distributed via social media.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So why Green Bay, Wisconsin? Right? And so, I mean, you've got quite the resume when it comes to how you've been hands-on with brands and not small ones, right?
Right.
And you've been out to Seattle and back, and so what do you see? What do you see the opportunity here to be able to really serve companies and help personify brands and businesses here in Green Bay?
Yeah. So I'm a product of my situation, I guess. So. When I moved back from Seattle to Wisconsin, I was in a former relationship at the time that went bad. But I always had a connection to always come back here. I have a lot of pride, and I feel a sense of responsibility to give back to this area.
Yeah.
There are great people that work here. There are hardworking people that are here.
Yeah.
My friends, family, other entrepreneurial individuals that live here, that why live anywhere else?
Yeah.
The business that I'm building could be built anywhere, but my wife has a very strong association to the area. She's from here too. Cost of living is cheap, so what I'm providing can be delivered anywhere, but why not here?
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't stop you from going anywhere.
Right.
But it is a great place to live and a great place. A lot of traditional industries here, which you're familiar with to an extent too, with Kimberly-Clark and paper products and all that kind of stuff, which is really, really cool. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, this is Kyle. Well done on your decision today to be great. Those are my kiddos in the background. Hey, if you want more of this kind of content, find me on social media. We'll keep the conversation going. You can hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, at Start With WNTD. Again, at Start With WNTD. We'll see you there.
All right, man. So I'm curious. We oftentimes roll through life knowing what we do, and we all have a code of ethics about how we go about doing what we do. But sometimes we're not always clear on why we do what we do. Maybe we find ourselves waking up one morning and being like, yeah, why am I doing this? I'm curious for you, in the business of personifying businesses, and really helping to bring a lot more synergy, or really unleash the synergistic effect of personal and business brand.
Yep.
Why? Why are you getting up every morning, rolling out of bed, and giving your life to that work?
So I've got a concept that I call the pillar of value.
Yeah.
And the pillar of value, I'd almost need a slide to demonstrate what it truly is, because it's a very visual concept. But essentially what it is when we're born, day zero, we really don't have a lot of tangible, monetizable value in our lives. But as we start to age and we start to learn and we start to grow and get experiences, we all acquire value. So by the time you're 18, you've acquired enough value that you can get compensated for some of that value that has been brewing below the line, and get monetized or compensated for that. But are you truly getting paid for what you're actually worth in its entirety? Probably not. So then you go to college and you learn some more and you get more experience and you take more of that accumulated, not paid value, and you get a promotion or a new job, and you take more of that value from down below and you get compensated for it. Well, today, with the tools and the accessibility to knowledge that exists out there, people can take their value that they're not getting compensated for, and they can leverage as much of that knowledge as they want by packaging that through packaging that value and delivering it to other people electronically or digitally. And that's what I'm trying to do for people. Is there are way too many people out there that are worth so much more to themselves and to the public than what they're actually getting paid for. So I'm trying to help these people leverage more of their untapped value and leverage it for themselves.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
A really cool way to think about it. I've heard it said once that basically, generally, people are compensated for what they... the world compensates you according to what you contribute to it.
Absolutely.
And so that's like a law that's embedded in the fabric of the world that we can't shake. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is that you're helping folks to really unleash a greater value, a greater contribution to the world with what they have wrapped in them, that maybe they aren't fully realized, or it isn't fully tapped.
Correct.
So that they realize a greater compensation.
Yeah, I call it a bridge. Like, a lot of times an employer builds you that bridge, which takes that value that you have and they compensate you for the goods and services you can provide with so-and-so value. Yeah. But if you build a bridge for yourself with an online asset, whether, like I said, it's a website or a membership site or a podcast such as this, there are many different tools and vehicles out there to build a bridge for yourself to provide more value that allows you to get compensated for what you're truly worth in life.
Yeah. Man, do you find that people are does that come as refreshing to folks? Or are people kind of are they skeptical? Or are they man, where have you been all my life?
So, I mean, this is something that I've internalized for the past 5 to 10 years, and I finally was able to put it down on paper and articulate truly what it is to me. And last fall in November, I gave a presentation, and I opened up about the pillar of value and business personification, and I just did it in a presentation last week, and the people in attendance were very eye-opened, very interested in hearing how I put those terms, because it resonated with them and what they're trying to do in their life and their business.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, very, very cool. So say it again for me. How would you phrase it? Like you're helping folks to tap their real potential or value in order to maximize their compensation from the world, or how would you phrase that in that way again?
Yeah, so again, I call it a pillar of value, and you take your untapped, underutilized value that you are not getting compensated for, and you're building a bridge for yourself that allows you to deliver more of that value on your own instead of delivering it through an employer.
That's awesome. So yeah, you are bridging a gap almost from like the corporate world to like an entrepreneurial realm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to replace the corporate world either.
Right.
So if you've got a job, and let's say you're like myself, if you're an engineer and you're super passionate about engineering, and if I wanted to take my passion for engineering and grow that personally and take all that other underutilized engineering skill that I have and do workshops and YouTube videos, or package up some of the niche knowledge that I have and share that with other people, I could do that. But I have chosen not to do that, and I've chosen to package up the branding knowledge that I've acquired over the years and distribute that. So not only does that help me grow and get my message out there, but it also helps the business that I'm trying to build on top of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And part of that idea of value too, it's not while economic value is important, right? People getting compensated monetarily and realizing, hey, like I can create another stream of income, or that type of thing. Versus just with my employer, I could build a website, I could do a podcast, I could write a book, I could create an e-course, I could do
all those things.
a million things that could be, like we were talking about earlier. I can give more use value to the world than what I take in cash value. I might sell an e-course for $1,000, but I might give someone, $1 million business idea, and for what they gave me in cash value, I gave them so much more in use value.
Absolutely,
that's a good thing. And so you're helping to grow that kind of economic value, which is really, really important. Sometimes in our day and age, it's kind of like, well, there's like that bad taste in our mouth if like someone wants to create something or make more money or create another revenue stream. It's like, oh, well, they're just greedy, or no, like they have more good off the world. Like they have more value, more capacity, more potential, and someone like you is coming along to help draw that out. Correct. I think another form of value would then also be the networking and the opportunities that come along with actually just exposing yourself, right? And getting yourself out there and realizing as you build relationships and other opportunities, the ways that you can really impact people, and the joy that comes from that, the sense of fulfillment that you feel like you're maybe giving yourself to a greater work than just punching a clock 9 to 5. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So another thing that I'm working on deploying through Brand Success Tools is to give away as much value as I possibly can for free. Like, I don't want to...
As in like free? Free.
100% free.
No strings attached for free.
No strings attached for free, because, again, like you and I were talking yesterday, we have the world at our fingertips, and the information that an individual needs to succeed is out there. But what they don't have is they don't have a way to implement and transform that information into something tangible. So what I'm trying to do as I build Brand Success Tools is give away as much information for free, but then help people that are serious about building a business and walk them through proven systems to help implement and transform their situations from where they're currently at to where they want to go, using the information that anybody can find today online for free.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I think that's neat in our day and age, really helping people to see that, hey, they have so much more to offer in life. Sometimes it's about coming alongside someone, helping them to change what they believe about themselves and what they have to offer the world. And you're doing that. And not only that, you're not only casting the vision, but then you're helping them to create a plan of execution. A tangible path, a practical, tactical path that aligns with what they're good at, what they enjoy doing, and how they can make money.
Absolutely.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, and only if you think the show deserves it, would you go over to Apple Podcasts and give us an honest, thoughtful 5-star review? This will really help us in our mission to equip the world for success.
Well, we just had a little bit of an extended break. Chris obliged to my craziness to do an episode of What Not to Do live, and so that'll be dropping later today, which is super fun. And handful of ladies are sitting next to us, having lunch, and we took a bathroom break, got refills on coffee, and came back and absolutely stormed their table, which was so fun.
Unofficial videographer is what I am now.
Add it to your resume.
Yes.
Well, man, I'm curious. The podcast focuses on failures. I think it's in a day and age where we want to Photoshop our failures. It's great that we can have real conversations and kind of lean into them. That said, it's not all about failure, and we know that failure is not the main point. Failure is not the end goal. You're experiencing some great successes in your life and great momentum, and you wouldn't have that if you never did anything right. And so I'm curious, man, as you're looking back over the course of your career, what are some of those things, decisions that you made, choices that you made, plays that you've made that you would say, unabashedly and unashamedly, that was absolutely the right thing to do, in such a way that you would gladly tell someone else, hey, consider doing this because this was such a right play.
Sure.
What are some of those things in your life?
Yeah, so I mean, my road to success has definitely been rocky, just like everybody else's.
Sure. Mine's been a straight line.
A straight line from the bottom to the top.
Yeah, straight line down.
But so I went through a really tough time in my personal life and professionally, back when I moved back to Wisconsin, and I was going through relationship problems with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
So I was recently divorced. I moved back to Wisconsin. I was doing engineering, but I wasn't passionate about what I was doing and where I was doing it.
Yeah.
So I needed a way to start building some small wins for myself again.
Okay.
Build up some confidence in myself and what I can do, not just professionally, but personally too. So one of the things that I did with a couple of my friends from around here is we started a mastermind group. Mm-hmm. And what we did is we met once a month for like an hour or two at a time. We'd just go to a local bar, a coffee shop, and we would talk goals.
Now, there's a lot of mastermind groups that meet at the local bar, right?
There are a lot of mastermind groups.
A lot of masterminds, if you will.
Yes.
Teasing, but that's not what you guys are about.
Correct.
Maybe unpack. That might be a new concept for people. Okay. I think I have an idea what you mean by that. But why don't you maybe unpack what is a mastermind group?
Yeah, so a mastermind group, it's a concept that Napoleon Hill had brought up in his book called Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
And basically what that entails is like-minded people getting together to help support each other and give each other advice when they're trying to help individual problems. So we had a group of 3, maybe 4. We'd always have like a guest attendee that would come to our mastermind group, but we would lay out and talk about the goals that we had set for ourselves, some of the successes that we've had, but we focus more on the needs and where our struggles were with where we're trying to go. And as a collective group, we would all put our heads together and form one mastermind to try to break through those individual barriers. So when I had done that with my friends, I put all kinds of goals on my mastermind list. So financial goals, wellness goals, relationship goals, and I started putting plans to accomplish those in place and started checking off the steps needed to accomplish those goals. And anytime that I ran into a hiccup, my friends would be there to help give me ideas to break through.
Yeah.
So that was a huge contributor to me building momentum and having the courage to buy an investment property, the first one, get in shape for some of these triathlons that I ran and trained for in the past, start dating again after I went through a hard divorce, and putting myself out there as a young single guy, recently new to the area again because I had been gone for a couple of years because I lived in Seattle.
Yeah.
So that was a huge thing that I feel like I've done right in my life, was starting a mastermind group. We don't do it anymore, but I still wish that was a part of my life because it was so instrumental in me picking up the pieces and building some traction again.
Yeah, that's so significant. And you guys you weren't all in on the same company, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're all different backgrounds.
But for that time when you met over a beer, a cup of coffee, you assumed that you were. and you put all the minds together to solve a problem in this particular business. And then you would shift and say, okay, what's next guy's business, right?
Right.
What's the problem he's trying to solve? Let's go all in on that. Really, really cool way. Definitely a force multiplier, if you will.
Yeah.
Cool. And so you'd highly recommend, what if someone can't find a mastermind group? They should start one?
You could start one and start asking around, because I think you will find that your friends or even business acquaintances have a desire to grow and break through their own barriers.
Yeah.
And if they know that they can have a confidant to lean on, and you're willing to be that person and start building some routine and accountability into solving some of the problems you mutually have, I don't think you're going to find too many people that would say no to an opportunity like that if you wanted to create it.
Yeah, and it seems to me that you'd want to also be, you probably don't want everyone to say yes, because it's a mastermind group. If I'm understanding right, probably a little bit smaller.
It's pretty small, 3 to 4 people.
And you want it to be really, really like-minded.
Yep.
To an extent of you're not coming from different frameworks or different systems, in a sense of if someone, I guess, let's say you wanted to start a business about entrepreneurship, and someone was zealous to work a 9-to-5 job the rest of their lives for somebody else and believe that was the right path. Probably not the person you want in the mastermind group.
Correct.
There's not, you don't have to be like-minded on the exact niche or business or industry, and that actually can be beneficial but you want someone that's on along the same lines. I guess if I'm not explaining it very well, but do you kind of get what I'm saying? And
yeah, you don't want to put oil and water together, but you could maybe put motor oil and olive oil together.
Yeah, what things go together, what things don't, because it has to do so much with people that have the right mindset on things, and that mindset could be different things. You could have a mastermind group for folks that do work a 9-to-5 job, right? Right. And they think, hey, this is a great path, and we want to really be excellent with where we're at working for somebody else. And so let's start a mastermind group of really encouraging people to take self-ownership in their respective roles and all that could be great, right? But for you, it seemed like it was more like, hey, we got to respective businesses, maybe more entrepreneurial, wanting to excel in life. Maybe a mastermind could be a personal thing, right? Right. You've got personal goals, all that kind of stuff, and it can touch on all those things. So that's awesome. That's great.
So that was one thing that I feel like I did right, and like I said, I should still be doing that, and I still feel connected to a lot of folks, and I feel like going through that whole experience and opening myself up in a vulnerable way and sharing some of my struggles with others, it makes me today a little bit more open to do that just on a routine basis, as opposed to only feeling like those were the individuals that I could go to for certain things. So it helped open me up and grow some confidence too. Well,
we might as well throw out an invite, right? If folks are listening to this, and you feel like, hey man, Chris and I are on the same wavelength, reach out to Chris. His contact info will be in the show notes. Find him on LinkedIn. We'll link to that. And if you think, hey, I would enjoy a mastermind group. I'm in the area. It seems like Chris and I are kind of cut from the same cloth. We're wanting to do a lot of the same things. Who knows? Get a cup of coffee with Chris. Get a beer with Chris, and maybe you guys can reform a mastermind group.
Cool. So that'd be incredible. So another thing that I feel like I've been doing right is keeping moving forward. So even when you're down in the dumps and things aren't going right for you, always continue to pick yourself up and keep moving forward. So there's a book that I think we'll get to in a little bit, but it's called The One Thing. And in The One Thing, they talk about building small wins and small successes. They might not add up to a whole lot over a short period of time, but if you keep moving in a forward direction and keep stacking small wins, they end up creating a lot of momentum and tipping over big dominoes and creating success for you at a larger scale in life over the course of time. So I feel like I've always had the foot on the gas. I've always been trying to be very deliberate with my actions and hopefully always moving forward. It might be sideways at times, but I'm always moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has that idea of the compound effect, right? Mm-hmm. Similar concept in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. You start pushing that flywheel, it's really massive, really heavy. takes a lot. You feel like you're just barely slugging, barely moving as you're pushing it. But pretty soon it starts to move a little bit more. You pick up speed just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Pretty soon you're running, and pretty soon that flywheel is turning itself. But you have to be patient and wait before you really see the compounding effects take place. And if you stop, then you're going to completely short circuit the process, which is good. Keep moving forward, whatever you're doing, even if it's just a step at a time, right? Just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder for triathlons, right?
That's true too. Yeah, it's incredible how much preparation goes into actually completing an event. Like, I've never done a full like, let's say, marathon in itself, because I feel like 26 miles is way farther than any man should humanly ever possibly need to run. But I've done half marathons, and it's just insane how much effort goes into accomplishing a goal. But once you're prepared to do it, it becomes attainable.
Yeah. There's actually a disease called marathonitis. Yeah, it's documented. Look it up. People must be sick and twisted if they want to run 26.2 miles.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
It's insane.
Yeah, so fun. That's great, man. Yeah, really, really good stuff. Cool. Okay. Well, let's flip it. As you're looking back over the course of your life, you've not done everything right. Right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be on the show, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, what are 3 things that kind of rise to the top of mind as you look back over the course of your journey to date? Things that, failures that you've had, mistakes you've made, things that you, like, if you could have it back, you're like, man, I would just wish I could have that one back and do it over again. What are some things that come to mind?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest ones for me would be, do not do it all alone. If I'm trying to accomplish a goal, chances are that other people have accomplished that goal in the past, or are also working toward the same goal and have learned from others, just like what we're doing now. Try to get feedback from others, and don't try to do everything yourself. If you're not very technical and you're trying to get some technical work done, it's best to find an affordable partner to help you deliver that and get that done on your own, because why try to do it all on your own and waste your own time at things you're not good at when you're trying to only put those pieces in place to allow you to do the things you're good at.
Yeah.
Outsource the stuff that you're not good at, and enable yourself to do the things that you want to do faster.
Yeah, that's so important. I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. Mm-hmm. I know the One Thing talks about that, but Richard Koch has the book, the 80-20 Principle, I think it's called. Tim Ferriss talks about it in 4-Hour Work Week. It's out there, but yeah, I mean, I guess an acronym that I use for myself is something, it's EADD, eliminate, automate, delegate, or do.
Okay.
Can I just eliminate this thing? Is it even necessary, right? Why is this even part of my process? Can I just eliminate it altogether? Let's get rid of it, right?
Right.
Okay, if I can't eliminate it, can I automate it? Right? Is this something that is a task or a function that I can automate? Why am I retyping the same thing? Why not just format, for whatever my copy is, and then copy and paste, right?
Right.
And that's a simple way of maybe automating something to make things more efficient. Okay, if I can't eliminate it and I can't automate it, can I delegate it? Mm-hmm. Is this something else? Is this something I have to do? Is this something I absolutely have to own, and I'm the only one who can do this? Or I'm the best one to do this? Or can this not be delegated? Maybe someone else would only be able to do it 80% as good as I can, but maybe it's better that happens so it gets done, because it frees me up to be more productive in other areas. And lastly, if it's something that I absolutely cannot delegate, then I'm going to do it and get it on the calendar. Mm-hmm. It's a simple process that a filter that I try to, or even think of it like as a funnel. You start out really wide, you're getting more and more narrow, and things, that way, the things that you have to do that you can focus on, that these are important things that they can't be eliminated, they can't be automated, and you're the most important one to be able to have to do these things. Yeah. And to your point, it's like, if you want to scale, if you want to grow your business, like, you try to do everything yourself. Maybe starting out you do, right? But if you're wanting to gain the momentum and take the next step and all that kind of stuff, there comes a point where you have to have a team around you or other folks that you can be able to work with, partner with, to be able to help you.
Yeah.
Would you Well, I guess what are your thoughts on that? Am I kind of understanding what you're saying well?
Yeah, entirely.
Concept, yeah.
So like an example that I have had is I just hired about a year ago a rock star website developer that I can deliver these assets great, either myself doing them or working with other local partners. But having a dedicated partner that is seriously at the top of his game, at the top of the industry, delivering web platforms and overhauling my previous website and then the websites of the clients that we currently have and into the future, it's incredible how much time that frees up from me to focus on promoting the message of the business and not building the business. So there's a comment out there, it's a quote by somebody that's kind of famous, and I don't know how it goes verbatim, but it's simply put, people need to work on their business, not in their business. And that's why I feel like you do not want to do it all alone. You need to work with other people that are good at what they do so you can be good at what you do.
Is that Kiyosaki?
It might be.
I want to say the first time I came across that was in Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, it's a book that I've read.
Now, whether or not that
always
comes from him,
me.
but yeah, it's such a great principle. And how many folks? Well, for instance, I work with, have worked with a lot of dentists, being in the dental industry, and a lot of them, I think the dentists have the highest rate of suicide, one of the highest rates of suicide. Mm-hmm. A lot of it maybe has to do with their work doesn't last. Like they do a filling, unfortunately, it could fall out or all that kind of stuff, or the decay comes back or whatever it is. I don't exactly know what it is or why, but but oftentimes they didn't go to school for business, so they don't really know how to run a business. Mm-hmm. And they try to, and they have to learn on the fly, and there's resources and all that kind of stuff, but like they didn't know how to do that, and that's not why they went into dentistry, right?
Yeah.
And so they find themselves working around the clock just to get a business going, and they're trapped, right? And a lot of them end up not being super happy. And again, not all. And there's a big movement within the dental world to change that. Yeah. And outside consultants coming in that are actually know nothing about dentistry but know everything about business that can actually help them to transform.
Yeah.
And a really interesting, that it's a good example, or at least for me, seeing it embodied of someone that's working in a job and not on it. They're working in a business, they're trapped in it that they started and they can't get out of it. Right. And then they need is the outside help to be able to get on top of that business and go from there. And oftentimes it means letting go, delegating things, that type of stuff, and helping to understand how to run this thing more optimally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, man. What else? What's the next thing?
So the next thing, what not to do would be to not quit. I feel like there are opportunities that I've had in the past that I've given up on maybe too early. And if I would have kept at my goals and noticed that I was making short-term progress, it would have been wise to keep after that, because who knows what those goals and opportunities that I was working on could have turned into if I would have just stuck with it. So, I just look back at when I was living in Seattle, I had the opportunity to do some serious networking with some seriously smart people while I was out there. I've got friends out there that work with Boeing, that work for Amazon, that work for Microsoft, and building some of those relationships deeper into the past and continuing nurturing those relationships in the past could have really changed my entire life. I'm not saying I want to work for Amazon or Microsoft, but it would have been very interesting to see what opportunities could have picked up if I would have kept building those relationships while I was out there.
All right, I want to know, who's next? Who do you want to hear on what not to do? Which entrepreneur, which leader, which public figure in your network do you want to hear on the show? Maybe it's you. Maybe you need to be here. So let's connect me with whomever, and we'll sit down for coffee, a beer, or even a cigar, and together equip the world for success.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what you were saying with just the idea of the compounding interest, and one thing that you did right was keep moving forward. And if you stop, then you stop the momentum, you stop that compounding effect. Mm-hmm. And here, by not quitting, or if you quit, you totally short circuit that process. There's a great book by Seth Godin. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, he's a guy with the funky glasses.
Yeah, he wrote a book called The Dip, and in that book he tells you to quit. But what he means is, in every business, you're going to have a low point. You're going to have your valleys, and that's when most people want to quit. And he tells you, don't get into a business that when the dip comes, when that valley hits, if you're not willing to stick it out, because by sticking out and getting to the other side is more valuable, and the purpose and the mission behind what you're doing is so important to you that it's worth sticking out through the dip, then you should quit. If I'm hearing you right, you're not necessarily at odds with that. You're saying, assuming that the vision, the mission is behind what you're doing is there, don't quit, because it's going to be tough, and you're going to hit the dip, and you're going to be tempted to quit.
Correct.
But if it's worth it to you to stick through, don't quit.
Right. And when I said that, don't quit, I also said in there, if you're seeing some success and you're seeing interest by the others that you're trying to serve. So if you are working on something and you're literally beating a dead horse, absolutely, then you should stop what you're doing, because you're pushing a rock uphill with no reprieve in sight. But if you're working on something, you've made progress in the past, and it looks like positive progress that could grow over time, don't necessarily give up on it, and don't quit on it too soon. Keep some of those opportunities alive when they're worth keeping alive.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Number 3, man, what do you got?
So the third thing, what not to do, would be to not be afraid to put yourself out there. So we covered it a little bit earlier about hiding behind a business or hiding behind your employer and only being as known for in the real world is what somebody else says you're known for. As individuals, we should be known for whatever we want to be known for. And we all have the ability to, I don't want to say like toot our own horn, because I'm not about that at all, but you should be giving yourself credit where credit is due and when it is due, so that other people can gravitate toward you, and you can establish more connections, you can grow relationships with individuals by putting yourself out there. And when you do that, I feel that it's very important to be mindful of how you put yourself out there. Watch how you dress, watch how you talk, watch how you interact in social situations when other people are doing one thing. Are you joining the crowd, or are you separating yourself from that crowd? So just don't be afraid to put yourself out there, but be mindful of how you're doing it.
Yeah. I think that's an important question to ask, is what do you want to be known for? And you said, it's not about being arrogant. And I think sometimes we think of, like, if we talk about what we're good at, then we're necessarily or automatically arrogant. And I think it's a careful distinction to make. Is it's one thing to avoid. It's one thing to avoid being prideful, and it's another thing to avoid the accusation of being prideful. We can't control who accuses us of what necessarily, but we shouldn't be prideful in the negative sense. If there's a positive sense in which you can use being prideful, but you shouldn't be prideful in the negative sense where you're just boastful, arrogant, all that kind of stuff. Right. But if you're not, but someone's accusing you of being that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can't avoid that. I think it's really important for folks to lean into what they're good at in life, and they shouldn't be ashamed of that. And they shouldn't be quiet about that. Right. And I think in a sense, if you just shut up and you don't lean into who you are and what you're good at, and letting the world know that you have this to offer to the world, then someone else is gonna write a narrative for you. They're gonna write a story for you. Correct. And you're gonna have to swallow that narrative. And I don't think that's any way to live life. We were created for so much more than that. We have so much much more potential. Let's understand what that is. Let's constantly seek to develop that and cultivate it, so we can offer more and more and more to the world.
Yeah.
And let the world know what we have to offer them. You can't do that if you're hiding underneath a rock.
Correct.
And like you're saying, on a micro level, we should really care about our appearance and what we say and what we do. At the same time, we shouldn't care so much about trying to Photoshop all of our, all of our person, right? Like, there's something about like for me, we just did What Not to Do Live, right? I recorded it. I didn't, I am who I am. Like, I'm not going to change in 5 minutes, and I'm not going to go back and put a Snapchat filter on there where there's butterflies around my head. Like, I just, who cares? Like, this is Kyle. This is what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And let's go, right? And so, like, we shouldn't have to hide behind filters. And maybe sometimes that's what people think about a business. A business is this proverbial filter that can hide behind and make me look better.
It 100% is.
And rather, you're calling people out to say, hey, like, who are you? What do you want to be known for? Let's get clear on that, and let's lean into that. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah, you summed it up really well. And one of the things that I want to be known for and help build with the business that I'm currently undertaking is take that business personification piece and really focus on the personification side of it. Yes, it's important to deliver services to customers in need, and you need a core product to deliver, but you need to also have and build a personal connection in a world where we are continuously becoming more and more sheltered from one another. For example, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and they said, I've lived in my neighborhood for X amount of years, and I have no idea who my next door neighbors are, or the people that live across the street. I have no idea who they are. Well, do you have a need to know who they are? Not when you have Amazon Prime delivering packages to your front door, or when you have social media groups that you're working with and communicating with friends and family that are either local or across the globe. Like, we are continually secluding ourselves more and more and becoming less and less personal, when the desire to have that personal relationship with business professionals or people nonetheless continues to rise.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, and that's one of the blessings of technology, as we have an extended reach. Mm-hmm. But really, the light that shines the farthest ought to shine the brightest at home.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, who's right next door to us, right? And why isn't that relationship strong, right? We might be part of a Facebook group, but what about a block party? What about just having our neighbors over for dinner or dessert or coffee, or so the kids can play?
You know how much more enjoyment that would bring you than it would be to sit on a Facebook Live party and watch this person put makeup on, or I don't mean to call anybody out, but
it might be kind of fun if you were putting the makeup on.
I was the one getting the makeup, yes. But yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, that's good. And again, it's not saying that the Facebook Live is bad, right? It's a good tool.
It's a great tool, and I support using tools to get your name out, but that should not be the end-all way to building relationships.
One tool in the toolbox.
Correct.
Yeah. That's good, man. Cool. So if you had a young guy, let's even say it was younger Chris, looking back, 10, 15, 20 years ago, how would you encourage 18-year-old Chris? Like, what advice would you give him? How would you tell him to go about doing things differently to avoid some of the mistakes that you made?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You just graduated high school. Just graduated from Seymour High School.
Yeah.
Ready to take on the world.
Yeah.
You're considering mechanical engineering. And suddenly 38-year-old Chris appears from the future, right?
Yeah.
My son.
What would you do? Well, I would think one of the biggest things that I would teach my younger self or say to my younger self is find the right mentors and systems that help get me where I want to go. At 18 years old, you're not going to know what you want to do with your life, but you're going to want to know what you want to do with your life for maybe the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years maybe. So, being 38 and thinking back two full decades to going back to being 18, if I had somebody help me get what I wanted when I was 18, what I thought I wanted by the time I was 28, my life would be totally different right now. And not just any mentor, but find mentors that have proven that what they're teaching you does provide results. There are a lot of people out there that preach a lot of self-help, or they preach a lot of systems and techniques that are currently out there, but they haven't gone through them themselves. So just be conscious of who you seek mentorship from, but definitely take the time to find somebody to learn from.
Yeah, it's so important. We were talking a little bit. It might have been off air about, that's part of my story, right? Really thankful for my parents, and they're very supportive all throughout life of whatever I wanted to do, and still are. But there wasn't like hey, let's sit down and let's chart out a plan for your life. Like where you want to be in 50 years, and let's help you get you there. And let's create a plan of action and execute it. And, go. There wasn't so much of that, and that's really what a mentor can help to do. And I think what you said is really, really important. Find a mentor who you would readily trade places with. Yeah. Right? They are where you want to be. They're at the top of the mountain, and they're willing to help you climb back up. They're coming down, and they're going to help you get back up there. And that's the right kind of mentor. You're warning warning folks from the folks that are from the quote unquote mentors and gurus that are sitting at the bottom of the mountain. They've never been at the top, and they're saying, "Hey, you want to climb? I'll get you to the top." Yeah. Have you been to the top? No, but I'll get you there. Right? It's just like, all right, and this is actually where technology can be really, really good. Sometimes we're a little bit skeptical and I think everything out there is a scam, and it's not necessarily a scam. There's actually really good stuff out there. True. There are folks that have done really, really well. For instance, a guy that's been impactful with me, Grant Cardone, right, is managing 1.8 billion, in real estate. Yeah. Assets under management, just crazy. And he came from nothing, right? And I love that. He gives me the swift kick in the mouth that I need every day, and things like that. Or when I feel like if I'm not doing enough, or I find myself drifting or getting lazy, he tells me to do more, right? And I hear that voice in my head. I've never met the guy in my life. I'd love to get him on the show. I'd love to meet him personally, right? Yeah. And hear his story, right? Hear what he would, hear his failures, that kind of stuff. But we need folks like that, and that's the cool thing about technology, is that sometimes those mentors can be indirect. Now, I think it's really, really great if they can be direct and flesh and blood in person. There's something about that being face to face. Going over to their house, seeing their family. There's that relational aspect of that's hard to quantify. That said, if you can't find that, that's okay. There are books, there are folks out there, there are lectures, things online, YouTube. Yeah,
you can tap into that.
Tap into so much. And who knows where it'll take you from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, true.
That's awesome, man.
Well, it is one of my main goals to give you more in use value than what I take from you in cash value. And so, man, I love that this podcast is for free. And I really hope that you are finding just incredible value. Who knows, maybe in one of these episodes, you'll take an idea that will be worth $1 million to you. And that's so awesome. If you believe in this and what we're doing here and you'd like to give, you can go to patreon.com/whatnotttodo and you can give according to your heart's desire. But seriously, every little bit helps in our mission to equip the world for success. Thank you so much.
All right, man. So what else would you do differently? How else would you counsel younger Chris?
Yeah. So if I had to go back and tell myself to do another thing, I would say start documenting my journey along the way sooner. So as I try to build my professional brand to help promote the business that I'm trying to build, I try to go back and figure out where I've come from. Well, when I started doing that, say 5 years ago into a 30-year journey, it's really hard to remember back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And what I'm trying to do is put those pieces together that I feel like were huge milestones in my life to help build that story of who I am today. Well, if I would have known to have been doing that the whole time, my story would be much more complete. I would be more mindful of the hurdles and the milestones that I had crossed and accomplished, and I could use that to help tell my story that much better. So I really feel like just documenting your journey, and I literally have a spreadsheet, And like every month when I do my bills, what I do is I go through and I just write down a couple of key highlights that I've achieved or learned over the course of the past 30 days. Like some of my recent ones were did a public presentation at a LinkedIn local event. Another one was celebrated my mom's 60th birthday party. Surprised her, and 100 of her closest friends were there, and she had no idea that it was even happening. Like, just document your life. It doesn't have to be in full detail, but just capture the big pieces, because you're going to look back and you're not going to remember all those little things that you truly appreciate and have made you who you are today.
Yeah, it's cool. And then, you're really kind of drafting an outline for your life, and who knows, maybe one day you put it into, an autobiographical form, which is cool. Or pass it on to your kids, even just in a journal form. And, can be really, really powerful, and maybe be a source of inspiration to them, for Remy, right?
Right,
which can be really powerful. That's cool.
Yeah, and I'd say the only other thing, I know we're a little short on time, but I would say live within my means for as long as possible. So when I first graduated college, I had a great engineering salary, and I was achieving a lot of promotions, but my lifestyle was growing at the rate of my promotions. So I was getting into bigger houses than I needed, bigger vehicles than I needed, more luxuries than I needed. And I feel like when your income continues to grow and you're still building a business or a life for yourself, take some of those additional funds and use that as gas in the tank to do more things professionally for you. Don't necessarily spend it on tangible things that you won't get long-term benefit out of down the road. So it allows you to also take more risks financially too, because you have a little bit more disposable income, if you want to call it that, to put toward education or trying things out. Whereas if you fully invest your income and your earnings into tangible things like houses and cars and jewelry and shoes, it's kind of hard to risk anything else that you might have ambitions on because of fear of losing all those things that you've just paid for.
Yeah, so important. It's have your earned income parlayed to passive income.
That's a really good way to put it. And
let your passive income pay for your lifestyle.
Yes.
And that takes a while to build. And so while that's happening, stay broke. Right?
Yep.
It doesn't mean that you don't care about your appearance, all that kind of stuff, but you don't need the extra pair of jeans, you don't need the new pair of shoes. It's nice enough in that sense. Mm-hmm. People don't care that much about things, as you do, and it's so much better to play that long game to where, hey, now you can go buy that car or lease that car, and it's coming out of your passive income.
So good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not easy, right?
Not easy, no, because when you have the means to do things financially, it's hard to say no, but you need discipline. You need discipline with that, like you need discipline to exercise or to train for a skill that you're trying to get better at, right? And everything takes discipline, so does money management. Yeah.
Right on, man. Okay. So, anything else you counsel young Chris to do?
I think we'll leave it at that. Those are three good ones. I feel like I wish I would have known back in the day. Yeah.
All right, so I'm curious for you, man. We are shaped by so many different people and places in life. I'm curious for you, as you're looking back over the course of your life, having been shaped by many folks, who would you say for you, if you took them out of the equation, you wouldn't be Chris DeRuyter that you are today? Like, they were so impactful, so formational to who you are, to your success, etc., that if you took them out, you'd be a completely different person.
Yeah. So I think one of the people that was instrumental in me being me would have to be Robert Kiyosaki.
Okay.
So when I first graduated from college, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and having that entrepreneurial spirit led me to reading that book. And once I read that book, that really fueled an ambition or a passion in me to continue to grow that spirit into an actual business where I could end up being an ultimate investor.
Yeah, where you're working on that business, on that business.
Correct. Yep.
That's awesome. It's fun. There's a lot of folks I've talked to that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a game changer for him. A mindset changer for him, And I don't think my dad had ever even heard of that book, heard whatever that was. And I'm excited for my kids. They're already talking about cash flow and different things like that. And they're 3 and 2 years old, or they love Dada's podcast business and all that kind of stuff. And it's fun to teach them basic concepts and so they can go further faster than we can, So, I love it. Love it. That's cool. All right, man. So it's not the best advice, but just like we did recently with Table 9 over here.
Yeah.
With Sarah and Morgan and Taylin and Karen. I think all the names is awesome. What's some of the worst advice you hear floating around these days? Or maybe just some really terrible advice that you were given some time in life?
Wow. Yeah. I should have seen this one coming, but I think the worst advice that either I've been given or I hear floating around is that you need to pay to play, and pay in a monetary sense, I should say, as opposed to not pay your dues through time and effort.
Yeah.
So many people are looking to get rich quick and claiming to be gurus, and they can cure all your ills by taking this special XYZ, taking this course or taking this product or whatever it may be. I feel like there's a lot of bad information out there for people that are in it for themselves. The piece that you need to take into consideration is, like I said before, there's so much free, good information out there, along with the bad, that you can enable yourself to make good decisions and enable yourself to do a lot of good things on your own without having to necessarily pay to play. You absolutely need to make investments where it makes sense, but don't be willing to just shell out money for the latest tip, trick, hack, or secret that exists out there, because quite honestly, they're gonna pocket that cash, and they might give you some value, but they're not gonna help you implement or see through the root cause of why you asked for it in the first place.
Yeah, going back to who's on top of the mountain, right?
Yeah.
Who are you taking advice from? Who are you learning from? Paying is good. You should pay someone for the advice and for the coaching or the training or the mentorship, but not just anyone.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure. And that is a temptation. Hey, here's the latest strategy. Here's the latest this, and let's just go get it. There obviously are costs in business and startup, and you're not dismissing that, but that's good. And then just being wise about what you are putting your dollars towards. That you're maximizing your ROI.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Short and sweet.
Cool. Awesome. All right, man. Last but not least, it is rush hour in every major city throughout the world, from Green Bay to Beijing, and billions of people listening to What Not to Do with Chris DeRuyter, right? And they stuck in a traffic jam, and they look up out of their windows, and once you know it, they see a billboard, and it's Chris DeRuyter's billboard. What a coincidence. What is the message that they see? What message do you want the world to see, Chris?
So the message that I'm trying to communicate, it's been very apparent, I think, through the whole podcast episode here, is let's maximize each other's value, and let's be the best versions of ourselves, because there's never been a better time in history to do that for each other, using the tools that exist readily available to us right here, right now. So let's be the best versions of ourselves and help each other maximize our values.
Awesome. I'm writing that down. That's good, man. Yeah, that's a message that we need to be reminded, I think, of on a daily basis.
Yeah.
All right, bonus round. 3 books that they don't have to be your favorite,
Okay.
but that you think are really impactful books, so much that they should be on someone's shelf and that they should probably read sooner than later.
Yeah.
And if they don't, their life is going to suffer for it until they read the book. Right?
Yeah. So 3 books that I've recently read that I feel are very impactful with what I'm trying to do is starting with number 1, The Art of War by Stephen Pressfield. So that book does a very deep dive into...
Is it The Art of War?
The Art of War.
Or The War of Art?
There is The War of Art, but then there is The Art of War. They are 2 separate books. And The Art of War, if I have them aligned correctly, The Art of War is all about resistance and overcoming personal resistance to overcome your goals or overcome your obstacles to achieve your goals, I should say.
Cool. I haven't heard of it. So I've heard of The War of Art.
Yes.
And obviously I've heard of the original The Art of War.
Yep.
But I didn't know Pressfield had one called The Art of War, so that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. So that's a really good book about resistance and how to overcome it, and how you're constantly battling that.
Yeah.
You have to keep it at bay, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, another book that I mentioned a little bit earlier is The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. So it just goes really in depth on how to do one thing at a time, be successful small, incrementally to grow larger wins over time. So do one thing at a time, do the right thing at a time, and over time, it ends up being massive change in your own life.
Yeah, awesome. I read that book, I think it was last summer, and it's a fantastic book.
Yeah. And then the third book that I highly recommend is called Expert Secrets, and that book is written by Russell Brunson. And what that book talks about is, if you're like most people, you've probably spent like the first part of your career learning and honing in on your skills until you've become an expert in some field of study. And to grow further in your own life after you're an expert, you have to use those life lessons and career smarts and the tools that are available via technology today to impact and help others. So that book really planted a seed for me in how I'm trying to help others leverage their own value.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome, man. Very, very cool. Well, Chris, this is awesome. I've really enjoyed our time together.
Yeah.
We had a blast.
Likewise, it's good.
Quite a bit of spontaneity, which is awesome, and really enjoying getting to know your story. I'll be excited to really hear, who you're able to connect with through this, and folks that are impacted by your story and the work that you're up to, which is cool.
Nice.
So let's say folks want to get together with you, they want coffee, they want to do business with you, they want help personifying their business. How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me would be to email me at chris@brandsuccesstools.com, and send me a personal message, and I will be ready and willing to reply here in the Green Bay area. But if you're even not from this area, send me a note, and we will find a way to connect. If you're looking for more information on my business itself, just go to brandsuccesstools.com, and there's a good rundown of what our products truly are and how you can get your hands on those.
Yep, and you're on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Great way to connect with you?
Yeah, great way to connect with me. Request a connection on Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are probably my 2 primary platforms.
TikTok is a bit personal, right?
That's a little bit personal. Yeah. I'm not a TikTok mogul yet, but
that's
we will have to see if that's a platform I want to leverage myself on later.
Yeah, awesome. Well, man, this has been so great. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm really excited to share with you that What Not to Do has been gaining traction and momentum and experiencing some early wins, which is super exciting, and reminded me this show is about you, it's for you, and I couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much. If you're part of a company, if you own a company, and you think your message would be really, really relevant and valuable to the folks that are part of this community, entrepreneurs, leaders, public figures, and those aspiring as such, reach out to me. My contact info is in the show notes, and we can sit down and consider what it would look like to partner together in equipping the world for success. All right, great conversation with Chris DeRuyter. I love getting to know folks. They have such a different background, diverse, unique. It's just cool. Every story is so different. So I say that because some of the things that Chris told us not to do, we're hearing from other folks, right? And if you're really listening long enough, there's a lot of things that are new, but there's also repeats, right? And I think that's important to catch on to. First of all, because we start to see things that kind of rise to the top, see the common denominators, the scarlet threads that run through life, right? But then also, secondly, we can learn, even though we've heard a particular not to do before, we can learn something new about it through the lens of someone new, someone's perspective that we didn't consider before. And today we get the privilege of doing that through Chris's eyes. So let's recap. Here's what Chris told us not to do. First, don't do it all alone. Don't do it all alone. We've heard various variations of this on the podcast. And but we get to see through Chris's eyes today. But this makes sense to us, right? We have the temptation. We know that we want to do it all alone. We think we're cutting costs, or we think, we can go and learn it and be the best at it. We think we have the strength and the shoulders to be able to handle all of that. The reality is if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go with others, right? It's kind of like just the normal pace of life. Can you imagine if all of life was like a continual sprint? I mean, you'd die, right? Consider your heart. Your heart just lub-dubs, beats away slowly, steadily, consistently for 80 some years, right? Every once in a while, it sprints, but it's not meant to be able to sprint. It's not meant to be able to handle that pace. Well, imagine, your life, your work here, your business, your role, whatever it is, as that pace should be a steady, lub-dub beating of the heart. And yes, there's a time to sprint. Yes, there's a time to push it forward. But the sprint is not the normal pace. It ought not to be. It's not sustainable. We find ourselves sprinting and going really, really fast. We have a lot to do and a lot that needs to get done, and we're trying to do it all of ourselves. So don't do it all alone. Build your team, find folks that you can work with, and go from there. Secondly, don't quit. Don't quit. This is important. We need to hear this, especially in the time, that we're recording this. At the time of the conversation with Chris, this wasn't a thing, and now it's a thing, and that thing is the coronavirus, right? And we are all quarantined at home, and we are scared. We are unsure. Right? We have various uncertainties. We might no longer have cash flow, right? If we lost a job, or if the job is not currently paying us because we're not working, whatever the situation might be, there's the scary unknowns, right? And in times like this, we want to curl up on a ball and just quit, right? I'm here to tell you today, don't do it. Don't quit. Don't give up. Never back down. Never give up. This is so important. That's because this is going to present itself as a failure. It's going to present itself as a dead end, and you're going to want to quit because you don't see another way. But it's meant for us to push through, to be able to see what can't be seen, right? And that's the idea of faith, the idea of hope. We can take times like this and press through them. If you need that kind of encouragement, I would encourage you. I just released this morning a new I don't know if you want to call it episode or a new series under What Not to Do, called Songs for the American Spirit, right? And because we realize in times like this, especially like this, we need to be encouraged, we need to build up. And Americans have always, fought fiercely for faith and family and freedom. And it's no different today with the things that we're facing. And so I want to be able to encourage you to do that. And if you feel like, man, you're on the edge and you just want to quit, just go take a listen to the song that's posted there today. It's called "To the Men Who Lose," right? And it's this this toast, this cheers to men who, though they've lost, they fought, right? Be that kind of person today, man or woman. Be the person who engages in the fight, who fights, regardless of if they're going to win. Don't quit. Don't quit. Fight. Number 3, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Man, this is, something in life, we've been, you look at a little kid, we've got 4 of them at home, and they don't wrestle with self-esteem issues. They don't wrestle with, how their hair looks. They don't wrestle with whatever, whatever it is. They just do. They just are. They're wholly confident in themselves. And somewhere between 5 and 25, we learn to be overly self-conscious. We learn to doubt ourselves. We learn to think that we're too weak and not enough, right? And we start to believe these certain narratives about ourselves. And they become limitations from us just putting ourselves out there, from going all in on us, from burning the ships on us, from being just really confident in what we have to offer the world, so much so that we actually go and do something about it. We actually go offer it to the world, right? So I'm here to remind you that you were created with incredible potential. You have so much to offer, right? So continue to cultivate whatever the skills that you have are, the gifts, the abilities, etc., and then find ways to unleash them in the world. Unleash them in service to the world around you, right? For the sake of yourself, your family, and the world. Like you have to do that. Like you have a moral obligation to do that, right? So not being afraid to put yourself out there is actually pretty selfish. Or excuse me, being afraid to put yourself out there is actually pretty selfish, right? Because by doing that, you're not actually putting yourself out there, offering the things that you have to the world, the good things you have to be a blessing to the world, and you're robbing the world and your family and yourself from that. I mean, come on, so don't be selfish, right? Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be selfish. Awesome. Well, maybe that was a little bit of a kick in the mouth, and if anyone's, proverbially bleeding out there, I'm sorry. Just got passionate about that for here a little bit, but anyway, I need to hear that. I say these things, and these things are encouraging for me. I'm talking to myself, preaching to myself, and so if I get riled up, just assume that, I'm wrestling with that or whatever, and or whatever it is. But anyway, man, thank you so much for listening. I love you guys. And the podcast it's about you, it's for you, and I couldn't do it without you. Some exciting things happening. And I'm really, really thankful. Growing listenership. Last time I checked, I think we're in 18 countries, 228 cities, which is cool. Folks expressing more interest and seeing how we can partner together, and more listeners, more feedback. Really, really good. Let me know. I've introduced 2 series. One is the You Can Do More series, and the second one is Songs for the American Spirit. So You Can Do More is kind of the next step of what not to do, right? So in what not to do, we're talking about what not to do, right? And we get that. But then when we ask the question, what should we do? Right. And kind of like we were just talking about with not quitting and not being afraid, the first thing is a mindset, right? And it's that mindset and that belief that we can actually do more, right? We can actually dream bigger. We can think bigger. We can put ourselves out there, that we actually have something valuable to offer the world. Like we can do more, right? More than what we think, more than what we've been told. And what I don't have in mind there is just, running around with just kind of like a general busyness. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying more impact. Like we have so much to offer the world, and it's really just a short form, hopefully inspirational, something that you could take, when you wake up in the morning, take to the gym with you, take before, whatever meeting you have, presentation, or if you're relaxing and winding down for the day, or you get home and you're ready to face, and spend time with the family, and that's going to be more work because there's a lot to be doing, and parenting is hard work, and being a good spouse is hard work, or sometimes it can be at least, and you just need that shot in the arm of life. Like I hope that short form for You Can Do More has that effect. With Songs for the American Spirit, like I was mentioning earlier, man, songs are so good, and music is such a powerful form of communication. And so in this way, Songs for the American Spirit, it's pretty short, probably under 10 minutes, and I talk a little bit about the song that I chose. I'll read the lyrics and then play the recording for the song. And a lot of the songs are going to be my own stuff. I'm a songwriter and musician, if you didn't know that. But my goal is actually to corral a bunch of other artists and songwriters to contribute and have them choose a song and that they wrote that they really think is congruent with the values of the American spirit, and how that song communicates that, to read the lyrics and then to play the recording of their song. So that's kind of where I see it going. Really, really exciting. Look for that to be on all major platforms soon, but for now we have it under this umbrella. And so give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. If it's good, if you think it's horrible, whatever it is, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Just helpful to hear some feedback. So awesome. Well, this has been so good, man. I say that a lot, but it's true. And I can't see anyone right now. But you guys mean so much to me. When I look at that and say like 18 countries, 228 cities, we're on the precipice of 3,000 downloads. We'll be there by the morning, which is just amazing. Man, thank you guys so much. This is amazing. I enjoy what I do. I think I'm good at it. I like this, and there's opportunity to make this what I can do full time. And so, all the interaction, all the support, all the listening, all the encouragement, seeing lives really, really impacted, that impacts me. And I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of that. Well, it's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great, and we'll see you next time.